Hey mama, are you a multi-passionate mom who is juggling all the things, nursing a baby, battling laundry, trying to keep it together and keep a spicy marriage, and feeling like you're feeling all of it? What's up? I'm Ashley Carroll. I'm here to hold your hand through this process because I believe when you're ready to take control of your life, beat the limiting excuses, step into your own power, you can not only survive, but you can thrive. But you're gonna have to show up for yourself. It's time for me to tough love your way through prioritization, taking self-care seriously, getting rid of excuses, reconnecting with your family, kids, and spouse, and quite honestly, learning to love the chaos because the glory is in the journey. It's in the mess. In this podcast, you will find balance for busy mamas, navigating mom guilt, time management strategies, and everything in between with no fluff and lots of fun. Let's go. Hey, what's up, guys? Back here. I hope you are doing well. If you're in Texas, I hope that your homes are safe. I hope that you are on the mend and hope that everything's well and you found water and bread and all the things. You guys, if you are not in Texas, it was crazy. That is my dryer. We are in my recording studio, aka the barn, aka the kitchen, the laundry room, and the bathroom. This is life right now, living on our land. But, yeah, if you're in Texas, man, last week, like today, it's insane, okay? Because literally a week ago today, it was like frozen tundra, like 1 feet of snow in, just brutal winds and coldness and just stuff that Texas isn't prepared for. Like I know that in the north or other places where you get a lot of snow, it's like no big deal. You get like 24 inches. It's like insane. But for Texas, we do not have a system set up for salt trucks to come by, things to be shoveled, places, sidewalks to be cleared, etc. We have none of that. Because we never get that weather here. Like it never snows here ever. And so last week it was insane. And then today it's like 70 degrees and sunny. You would have never known that a week ago was such a devastating experience for Texas. Like for us, I woke up on Monday morning and I could already tell, like, I know the feeling when our propane tanks run out by now because it's like brutally cold and I can tell that the furnace isn't kicking on. And so I woke up and I felt that same feeling and I was like, oh no. And so initially I thought it was just that we ran out of propane tank, propanes, that we just ran out of propane. And we ended up being at the beginning of a snowstorm that essentially forced us out of our land, out of our home, out of our RV, and into my dad's home, who insanely was never impacted by the storm. Like, never had a problem with heat, electricity, nothing. That is not the case for a ton of homes across Texas. Like, everybody is either living life as normal because they were barely impacted or not at all, or they had a few cracked pipes here and there that required some fixing and some maintenance, or you just got like ransacked by the storm. Like people's homes were flooded, just water pouring down from the ceiling. I know like UT Austin, a bunch of their apartments were just like flooding hardcore, like pipes bursting everywhere. It was just crazy. So we have a lot of mixed emotions coming back from that. Water is like very scarce around here. We were under a boil water precaution where you had to boil the water before you could use it if it was going to be consumed in any way that would affect your health because it was unsafe. Because with no electricity, the water plants couldn't treat the water. Anyways, just nuts. So I want to let you know that I'm praying for you guys if you're still in the thick of it. I appreciate all the other states around the U.S. that came to our aid. Like there was truckers coming with foods. There was linemen coming from like Florida. And so if your husband is one of those drivers, workers, or if you are, thank you so much. We needed your help and we appreciated it greatly. Oh my gosh. The great thing about Texas, though, that I love, that I just have to mention before we get on to this episode, is that we came together amazingly. Like the help that I've seen, the people, the way that we were showing up for each other, like our neighbors barely know us and everybody was passing around heat guns and people were showing up and helping, unclog things and giving us space heaters and just amazing. So, I love that Texas is like that. And despite the fact that stores had no electricity and some stores had no way to take forms of payment from people, man, nobody ransacked anything. It was just people coming together like, okay, how are we going to get through this? Let's support each other. Amazing. So anyways, that's just a little update of what happened last week and why there was no episode. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why you become the lies you think. I initially had this idea because my husband said something to me this past week, and it was just, he said it to me a bajillion times, but for some reason, I really honed in on it. Like, it really caught me. And he said, I don't know, I rambled off some sort of like nonsense about myself, and he was like, babe, stop. What you say about yourself is what you're going to believe about yourself. And he's said that a million times. And I think that always, because I'm always so sarcastic and I'm funny and I like to make light of things sometimes, but sometimes I feel it, but I make light of it to like make light of it, But I don't really think that, like, I know that there's part of me that's like, okay, some of that must be true. But I also think that, man, my brain must know that I'm just joking. And so it really hit me when he said that. And I was like, do I really believe the things that I say all the time? Like those things when I tell myself that I'm not good enough, or nobody wants to be friends with me, or I could have showed up better today, or I'm a bad mother, or, this whatever. Fill in the blank, right? Because we're so hard on ourselves. So I didn't want to speculate. So I really did research this, and I want to share with you guys what I found about this idea of if what we say out loud about ourselves, even if it's in fun, or even if it's just like we feel like our brains know better, like we say, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb, right? But you're like, my brain must know that I'm really not dumb, right? Like, surely, right? So what I found, though, was extremely interesting in my perspective. So I want to share with you some of those findings and why it's possible that the things that we think, whether we say it out loud or not, or the things that we say out loud playfully really do impact who we become and what we believe about ourselves. So first, it begins with what I'm calling a toxic thought cycle. And it's a cycle that feeds itself. And it's essentially, you say that you're a failure. You say, something negative about yourself. I'm dumb. I'm whatever. And then you believe it because you said it, and automatically we're already thinking of all the things in our head, right? Once we say like, gosh, I'm such a failure, then you think of immediately all the times that you fell, or you felt like you fell short. That is a tongue twister. You felt like you failed, or that you fell short, and you're just picturing in your head all these things. So now you believe it because your mind has mental proof. You're proving to yourself that that must be true. So then you feel it, right? It makes you feel all the things, like whether you feel bad about yourself, it makes you depressed, it makes you unmotivated, it makes you angry, it makes you upset, it makes you disappointed in yourself. Then you act like it because you feel like it. You feel down, you feel depressed, you feel whatever, right? Stressed, anxiety. So then you act like a failure because you're putting yourself in that position to fail. And then so on, right? So then when you act like it, you're like, oh, man, I can't believe I just did that. I am a failure. I must be a failure. Then you tell yourself that again. And so then you believe it. And then you feel it. And then you act like it. And then it just keeps feeding itself. It's a vicious cycle. And it happens. Like, you could think, I'm sure, right now of something that you've done like that and pinpoint the exact cycle and the exact thing that got you stuck in that cycle. When we think of something, it triggers an emotional and physiological response. So think of something that was stressful. Think of something that happened this week that caused you a lot of stress. For us, it was a snowstorm, right? Most recently. But it could be an argument with your spouse. It could be a fight with your boss, or your boss being angry with you. And then it causes you shame, maybe. So then you feel like your body physiologically slouches down, right? You feel that weird feeling like somebody just punched you in the gut. You feel stressed. You feel sad. You feel disappointed. You feel shame. And you can feel it in your bones. Like, instead of standing straight up, confident posture, shoulders back, head up, right? Like, you're slouching down. You feel slow. You're wondering if anybody saw you. You're looking around, right? It shows on your face. Everything that you feel. And you feel it emotionally, and you feel it in your body. And research says that because we have that relation, because we have that emotional response, that physiological response, our brain remembers it. It like imprints that instance in our mind forever because it has an emotional relation. The memories that you remember most are because it triggered some sort of emotional response in you, right? That's why like the news uses negative news, like scary news, just really shocking things on TV to boost their ratings because we have an emotional response. Those things stick with us, those awful things. Versus, pictures of puppies and happy things. Like, it gives us a little good feeling, but not as extreme as a dose spike of what our body responds to from a negative, angry, emotional response. So now, if we've had those emotional ties to the things that we're saying, our brain is holding on to it. It's like, oh, I need to remember this one. Like, y'all remember Inside Out? Those core memories, right? Those are the ones that's like, oh, this must be important. If you remember, all those memories were tied, her core memories were tied to some sort of emotional response. Like when she lost the hockey game and then she was sad, but then her team came, her parents came and sat next to her and like hugged her and comforted her. And then her team came over and lifted her up. Like, that was memorable because it had an emotional response to it. And then there was an action that imprinted it, like, okay, this is something I need to hold on to. This was a memento moment. Does that make sense, y'all? So, like, if you feel like you're failing and then you turn around and your arm swings and you accidentally knock a glass on the counter on top of already feeling like you're failing, saying that you're failing, telling yourself that you're failing, and then you break a glass, then you're like, oh, this must be it. I am a failure. See, look, right there. So now your brain has imprinted that in your mind that it's true. What you're saying is true. And then you feel it. You believe it, right? You believe it, then you feel it, and then you continue to act it out because you feel like you are what you think. So there was a couple quotes that I found when I was researching that I really liked. And one of them was, the quality of our thoughts create the quality of our life. You guys, I wanted to believe that there was nothing to this whole thoughts thing. I really did, because that's how I deflect. That's also how I thought got over my insecurities, by poking fun at myself, and then probably even putting myself out there. I think we say things out loud, hoping that whoever hears it will tell us that we're lying, because we believe it, right? We're believing it and we're saying it, and we're like, man, if somebody hears me right now, please tell me this isn't true about myself. We're already at the point of believing it's true, but if somebody on the outside tells us that maybe it's not, then we gain back that ounce of hope that maybe they're onto something. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe it really isn't true about ourselves. And although we don't fully believe it, it gives us that little ounce of hope that we need to continue to push, to seek out doing something different, to sort of believe that that's not true about ourselves. And it's just like I said, it's that ounce of hope. When we repeatedly pay attention to those negative or hurtful thoughts, it affirms in us that it is true, even if it's truly not. That was one of the things that I found in my research. And I looked at psychology pages. I did not look at blogs, by the way. That made me think of, just like I said, how you replay scenarios over and over in your head. And sometimes you realize at the end of it, you're like, wait a minute, did that really happen the way that it really happened? Or am I just like continuously dwelling on this one incident that now I can't even tell if that's really how it went down, or if that's really how I showed up that way, like. So we have to be careful with our thoughts. Our thoughts are dangerous, y'all. It's crazy. I thought I was just like fully just messing around with myself, making light of myself, and, joking about myself. But I think that's the danger of speaking lies about ourselves, especially out loud. If you say them out loud, other people can hear them, and then we also respond to their lack of response, or hopefully they have a response, and it's the one that we need, and it's the one to tell us that is not true. That is not true about you. And then it's like, oh, okay, right? Anyway, I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was super fascinating, because as moms, we're just so on top of ourselves, and we just talk awful about ourselves. And one thing that I always think of that you guys are probably tired of me saying is that, would you want your daughter to talk about herself the way that you talk about yourself? If you heard her and she said those thoughts that you're thinking out loud and you saw them come out of her mouth, you would sit her down, you would tell her that's not true, that she's the most beautiful thing in the world, that she is the best worker, that she's the best mother, that she is this, that, and the other, right? So it's crazy how when it comes to ourselves, that talk, that language, and those beliefs are okay, when they're most definitely not okay. The last quote that I found that I thought was really impactful, that just like kind of blew my mind, was, we are not our circumstances. We are what we think of our circumstances. So when things go bad, when we have snowstorms and the pipes bursting, we believe that it's because we deserved it. We feel like this, why does this happen to me? Right? But we are not our circumstances. Things don't happen to you because you're, quote unquote, a bad person, unless you murdered somebody, and then you should definitely go to jail, right? Like, bad things happen to truly bad people. But if you're a mom and you forgot your kid's lunch at school, or if you're a mom and you punish your kids because they did something wrong, that does not make you a bad mom. You're doing the right things for the right reasons. It's just a hard job. So the next time you're out and somebody says, hey, oh my gosh, you look great. What a cute outfit. And you're like, oh, yeah, like I barely got ready. I don't even know what I'm doing with my makeup. Like, it's awful. I'm a mess. Those are lies. You're not being humble. You're straight up lying, because it took you 2 hours to pick out that dang outfit. It took you 30 more minutes to get your face ready. Maybe you were in a hurry and so you just threw your hair up, but that doesn't make you any less beautiful than you truly are, than God created you to be. And so you're lying. You're not being humble. You're not doing anybody any favors. And then you're believing those lies about yourself that you're making up about yourself. I'm yelling at myself right now because I do this all the freaking time. And it's insane, as I've done research, how much these thoughts have power over ourselves. So it's not the everyday thoughts. You don't need to be, tracking every single, where did I put the bologna? Where are my keys? Like, all these thoughts. Is that a negative thought? Oh my gosh. No, it's those things that you want to catch yourself about you saying, I am this, or man, I can't do anything right. Those things that are lies. We need to call them out and be like, you know what? Is that really true about myself? Is it that I can't do anything right? Is it that I just flubbed today? I just messed up. And then I'm going to carry on, right? Because then if we fall into the trap of believing it, then it ruins our day. We feel it. So now everywhere that we're showing up unmotivated. We're showing up as a Debbie Downer. We're showing up as sad and mopey and stressed and depressed and anxious and on and on and on. So then obviously we're acting differently. And then we believe it because that's how we are. Because people are like, what is wrong with you? Oh my gosh, she's so angry. She's so cranky, right? So we're like, oh, it must be true. I am this, that, and the other. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I really found it fascinating. And I don't know why this one instance actually stuck out to me. And I believe my husband for once, because he tells me that all the time. And I say things in light all the time. And I don't know why this one instance, I was like, you know what? I'm going to look into this. Like, is this, because I honestly thought that my brain would know better. And it apparently doesn't. Like, I'm smart, but my brain is not that smart because it feeds off of patterns. And when we continuously give a thought its attention, it's like, wait a minute, she keeps thinking about this. She keeps thinking about this. Am I supposed to remember this? What? Like, just like that dentist appointment that you're repeating to yourself. My kids have a dentist appointment Wednesday at 4. My kids have a dentist appointment Wednesday at 4. So your brain is like, okay, hey, don't forget that dentist appointment Wednesday at 4. So then it's like, oh, wait a minute, she's repeating this thing. I must remember this thing too, right? Wrong. Those are the things that we want to forget. We want to speak truths to ourselves or tell our people circles that we can trust to call out those things in us. I'm so appreciative that my husband is like, no, that's not true, because otherwise I would go deeper into that cycle of believing it. I think that when he tells me that, it kind of is like a snap or like kind of like a jolt of, okay, maybe I must be a little bit wrong. I don't always fully believe it because I'm in my feels so much that I truly feel like I fell short, to where when he says, I'm like, oh, you must be saying that, you're my husband, right? But then I'm like, there's an ounce of hope and belief in his words, and just enough to keep me from getting into that cycle. And so if you have a friend that you can tell to call you out on it, if you're, listening to this podcast, girl, I definitely call you out on it all the time. I just can't do it to you one-on-one. Unless you're in my DMs, DM me and be like, hey, I feel like this. And I'm like, no, wrong. I have no problem doing that. Get in my DMs on Instagram. That's where I hang out all the time. But yeah, man, I was just so surprised at just how our thoughts really do hold power over ourselves. So this week, I want to challenge you guys to pay attention to those thoughts. And then if you're like me, or if you're a journaler, you can write down those thoughts, and then you can either have somebody else, like your husband, somebody you trust, write the truth next to it. So you believe, you're like, I am a failure. I have accomplished nothing. I can't keep a house clean. And then you can have them write the truth for you next to that. So then you can see a brutal comparison of what really is going on in your world versus what you're choosing to believe. Or you can sit down and write out those truths yourself, but you have to be really honest and really think, is what I'm saying, in fact, extremely true? And I think that's hard because if you're in it and if you're in that cycle, you believe it so deeply that you may not be able to actually see that it's not. So I would say go to either scripture, because scripture definitely tells you that what you're saying is lying if you're believing those things, or have somebody else call those out for you, either verbally, or if you're too afraid to have that conversation, you can talk about it and journal it. That's totally fine too. Honestly, I think just being mindful of our thoughts is the name of the game. So I hope you guys found this helpful. It was a short and quick episode, but I was just really surprised about how thoughts and just things that we say about ourselves really do impact ourselves. And I hope you are more mindful of that and that you know that you are an amazing mom. You're an amazing woman. You're strong. You're capable. You're motivated. You're beautiful. And you're definitely all the amazing things that God created you to be. So I hope you have an amazing week, and I will catch you guys back next episode. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you found this helpful. Catch you guys later. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today.